everybody, welcome back to our Nuxt full stack web development series. In the last video, we talked about states and state management and the difference between Vue's ref and Nuxt.js's useState. In today's video, we are actually going to begin looking at more backend related stuff, and that consists of API routes. For those of you who do not know what API routes, essentially they are URLs or endpoints, as they're called, that will allow you to pass data to clients or be used in external services. So I'll show you in a moment why this is useful and how to set it up. We are actually going to do this outside of our app. Our app is strictly for our front end stuff, and we're going to create a new folder inside of our Nuxt app root, and we're going to name this folder server. Make sure that that's in your Nuxt app, and inside of here, we're going to create another folder and we're going to call it API. Now, for those of you who have ever dabbled in APIs, you'll know that there are many different type of HTTP methods or actions. Two of the most common ones are get and post. Get is generally used for what it sounds like, getting information, retrieving information, and this will generally not require the user to pass in any information, and if it is information, it's usually non-sensitive data. Post will be used for passing sensitive information or large data bodies to the server. So I'm going to show you how to make your first endpoint. So inside of our API folder, let's create a new file, and we're just going to call it hello.ts. Now, you'll notice that we're not using a .vue extension, and that's because this isn't a Vue component at all. This is completely different. Nuxt.js uses Nitro for its backend, and that will allow us to make server-side API endpoints, such as the one that we're about to make. So you started off by typing export default, find event handler, and then we make a callback inside with event as our parameter. So event is where we can hold all of the information about this route and the request that's being made, along with setting headers for the response and all that good stuff. So to create the most basic simple route, we can return JSON information, and we'll just give it a field with the value of world. And now when we go to our Nuxt.js application, if we do /API/hello, and we may actually need to restart our dev server. Let's see. There we go. So now you can see when we go to /API/hello, we get a JSON response with one field, hello, and it has a value of world. You can pass in any information you want really into here. Quite nice. So what is this actually used for, and why would we need to do it? Well, let's say we have a database set up, which we will be doing later in this series, but for now we're going to be using an in-memory array and pretend that we're fetching data from a database. So we'll say database, and this will just be an array of a few fruits. So we'll have apple, pear, grapes, and we'll do cherries as well. This can be returned just by returning it like so. And now when we go to this route, we'll have, our database with our items inside of it. And when we go to our index, let's say we want to display a list of all of our fruits. If you are relatively more well-versed in the JavaScript ecosystem, you'd know that you would use fetch to retrieve information. However, in Nuxt.js, we use useFetch. This is just an abstraction layer that runs during server-side rendering. So the data does get preloaded. However, you can still refresh this data and make it reactive in whichever ways you would like to do so. So we're going to do useFetch, and inside of here, as you can see, VS Code is already giving me an IntelliSense autocomplete for our only route, which is very nice. And then we can do a comma, and this is where we're going to put our options. So we can say method, and we're going to do get because this is a get request. If we made this post, our endpoint would not work the same because we'd technically be making a different request. This is all we really need to do to get information. In fact, we don't actually need this at all because get will be the default method that you use anyway. So let's actually give our data a place to go, and we're going to be destructuring our useFetch by using these curly braces and and placing data inside. And we can actually also use await, as this will be an asynchronous event. And instead of doing a bunch of .then chains, we can simply do this. Okay, so now what can we do with this data value? Well, we can do a number of things. We can actually just display the database value like so. If we were to do that and go to our index, you'll notice that we have our array here from our pretend database in plain text. However, what if we want to actually do something a bit more interesting with this? Well, let's make an unordered list. And inside of this unordered list, we're actually going to also do list disk so that Tailwind makes this formatted correctly. And inside of here, we're going to do a list item and we're going to do a v4. Now, this is a view attribute and this allows us to iterate through a list of items. So if we do, let's say fruit in, and then we do data.database, now every fruit will be iterated on as a unique list item. So if we just pass fruit inside using the curly braces to inject the content and we go to our site, you'll see that we have apple, pear, grapes, and cherries. We may have to add a list inside. This is more of a Tailwind issue, guys. Sorry about this, but yeah, there we go. So the actual bullet points are rendering outside of the list, mostly because there's no padding. If we add padding, we can make this look a little bit nicer. There we go. So as you can see, what's going on here is we have an unordered list, and then we have a list item for every fruit that we're retrieving from our database. Now, let's say we want to add a kind of a placeholder for if we are loading our content. We can actually destructure a new variable called pending. And now let's just put this outside of our list. We can do a paragraph and say v-if, which is another view attribute that basically just shows whatever content's inside of here if this condition is true. So we can say loading, for example, and when we actually go here, if we made our thing take a bit longer, because right now this will just return automatically right away, and so it'll always be super fast. So for the sake of showing this off, because it will be instant, but if you're retrieving it from another data source or whatever, you don't actually need to emulate this. However, we are going to emulate it today by making this asynchronous callback, and we're going to be kind of forcing it to time out for 3 seconds. So essentially what this is doing is it's just waiting 3 seconds. And it's waiting for that 3 seconds, and then it's going to return our field like it was before. So we won't actually notice much of a difference when we reload the page. You'll see it actually stalls because of a few factors, and that's the fact that we're still fetching this on the server side. We're also awaiting this, which we don't need to do because that will stall our entire client. And essentially, we are waiting for the server to respond. So if we want to disable that and we want to fetch this on the client, we can say server false as an option. Also, I'm going to make this only display else this condition. So if this condition is false, it will do this, kind of like an if else. Well, it's exactly the same. Now, when we go to our page, you'll see that we actually get the loading, and then in 3 seconds, we should have the list. There we go. Very cool. There is one more thing I do want to showcase with useFetch, and that is error. So this will happen if there is any kind of error. Now, let's do a pv-if error, and inside of here, we'll say, there was an error, OMG. And then we're also going to inject the error message like so. Obviously, right now, nothing bad will happen. There's no error to be displayed. So after the 3 seconds, we'll just see our list. If we go into here, we can actually force there to be an error. So we can say throw, create error. And inside of here, we can just put whatever we want the error to be. Oopsie. Now, when we go here, after the 3 seconds is up, we will see the error. And it should just say that the error message is oopsie. There we go. There was an error. Oh my God. It doesn't actually display the message that we wrote. Oh no, I think it's data.message. Sorry, guys. So now we should get our error, hopefully. There we go. There was an error. Oh my God. And then there is our error message, which was oopsie. So yeah, we're going to actually get rid of the forced error and this as well, because we no longer really want that for the sake of our purposes here. I just wanted to display the information. So let's just do that. And we should actually see the pending for a second, or the loading, now that it's client based. That's everything for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, stay tuned for the next one.